Alright, so I want to get started with the basic fundamentals of Fusion and just kind of getting used to, I guess, the layout of the whole program. Um, so we can get started with these different teams. In the top left corner, we have different teams that we might be a part of. That it's like a shared. You can think of it as like maybe like a Google Drive or a cloud, um, where multiple people can have access to the content that you have in your team. So you can have it as like a shared folder, and you can access it from your Fusion 360 account. And yeah, I think this is just a refresh. You can search all of the data that you have. And you can hide this panel if you want when you're designing. This as well. And then our next little thing is the file. So when we were creating a new design, you want to click this file button, and you can choose what type of thing you want to create, whether it be a design, a drawing, animation. You can create it here, or you can even select it here. The first tip I would probably give is to always start by saving your sketch, even though you haven't drawn anything or done anything yet. Just save it and then have it given a name. So I have this one as Untitled 1. We can name this. We're gonna be creating a box later, so we're gonna name it Box. Hold on, let me close my window. It's getting a little loud. Lawnmowers. Okay. Do it. So save, and you can save as, I think, a different file type. But you can choose the location that you want to put it in. So you can create a project, and then if you have different folders that you want to create in your project for workshops or something like that, you can put your files in selection. I think you could also upload maybe documents that you from designs that you've seen online and you want to work with them. Yeah, a lot of settings we have here. You could share. Ooh, the Autodesk gallery. That's really cool. So it has like a direct link to our gallery or GrabCAD. Easy to show off your work. And we have our save button, and then undo. I think Control Z, and I might still work with that. And so here on the data panel, you also have different things shown here. So you have your projects. You can show them and like filter them. Different libraries and different samples that Fusion provides, and you can look at that. I want to get started also looking at the different features that Fusion has. So you can design. You do generative design, which is kind of a newer workspace that Fusion has. You can render, animation, simulations, factor stuff like cam and stuff. Yeah. The basic kind of tools are shown here. So, create a sketch. That's kind of how you start off your drawing. That sketch, you finish your sketch, and you can extrude it. Show you here. You'd have to select a plane or face that you want to draw on. Then once you're in your sketch, you get all these different sketch tools to work with. Line, rectangle, all of these different things. You can work with text. You can mirror your whatever you're creating on one side and flip it onto the other, making it save you a lot of time. Same with the patterns as well. And I think it's always very important to dimension. But you have to be careful when you're dimensioning your designs, because you don't want to over dimension whatever you're designing. Otherwise, it might not extrude or you know, errors. That. Um, we can also modify um, the sketch. So like maybe if you're we're gonna use the offset tool today, or we can even use another rectangle to do what we're gonna do, create our box. But the offset tool, like maybe like a frame, offset it by a certain yeah. And then here are our constraints where we can constrain our piece a certain way, help dimension it, and make sure that certain holes and stuff align with however you want to constrain it. These can help you. Our measure tool helps us obviously measure or the length of it, and you can also write it in. So I want this to be 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, and it's dimensioned. We can also like insert images into our drawing. So if you're maybe something and you want to put your picture there, and I think you can also insert but yeah, select tool, and so we could like finish our sketch. Look at the new other tools. So we have our extrude, our revolve, hole, our form, like all these different modifying and shape our object. You can also create different parts with your Fusion project. So if you want to have like maybe a set of like a pair of glasses that you want to create, and you have to make the lenses separate from frames or something, you can assemble these different components and put them together all in one, and you can give them certain functions. So like say you want the frame of your glasses to like bend at a certain point, you can give it a joint and have it move, and you can make it like an animation and show that. Yeah. With the construct construct function, you can change your planes and axes you might want to build your piece from. So like, want to maybe offset your plane 5 inches from box or something like that, and you can do that. And yeah, that's the basic, I guess, the solid under the solid. We have the surface where we can I guess modify the surface of your object that you're working on. The mesh I'm not 100% sure on. I don't know. Jake, do you want to cover this maybe? Yeah. This is, I believe, the new update.
Yeah, so we've just kind of added this meshed workspace to have its own tab now. So whether you're working with STL, if you have scanned something, you're going to import it and start working from that geometry, you'll do everything in here. Like learning, like the sheet metal tab or learning surfacing, it's kind of a whole new thing to jump into. So if you are new to Fusion, you can know that this is here. And another good thing to know, which Serena will definitely cover, is like all these mesh icons are yellow. All the solid workspace icons are blue. So just know that whenever you see one of these kind of bright yellow, triangulated icons. You're going to be working in the mesh workspace.
Yeah, so you can see in like the surface, it's like orange and.
In order to get into the mesh workspace, do you still have to go into the user preference, or is it just default in mesh?
It's defaulted there now. It's part of the new update. Notice now that you're logged out of your Fusion, it had an update. The mesh should show up here.
But that is correct. Before it was a preview feature that you had to like add on in your preferences, but I believe now it should be in everybody's Fusion. It's kind of out of the beta testing phase.
If you want to create a box or something, like it lays it out for you, and you can put it. Yeah. I also want to that you can go to your own settings here, your preferences. But you can see if you want to really get down and gritty into the details of the software. There's different settings that you can. So your default units you can change in the settings and preferences, or you could actually change in your design. You can also notice here that your box, or well, I guess the object that you're creating, it shows here. So you can activate different components. Like when you're putting two different pieces together, you can activate them. Your document settings are also shown here. You can change your units. This is where you can also change it rather than in preference. So you can change meter, millimeter, meter, inch, foot, whatever you'd like. You can set it. Mine's already defaulted to inch, so if you want it to be centimeter, you can change that. We also have our planes and our all of our sketches and our origins show up on this side. What do you call this, Jake? What's the proper name for it? Do you know?
You are hovering over the browser.
Browser? So yeah, just called the browser. So yeah, so the browser has basically all your sketches and drawings shown here. So it's super easy access. So if you want to hide something, you can. So I wanted to get started showing I want to create a box and kind of step you guys through that. I made this little box earlier. And there's multiple ways that you can make like there's so many ways in Fusion that you can create little figures. But no right way to do it. There's definitely easier ways. Yeah. Oh, also at the bottom I wanted to point out for showing, but you have this little play button, and at the bottom you're gonna have like a timeline of all the steps that you did, and you can go back in your timeline, all the steps that you had and did to create whatever object that you're designing. We also have the orbit tool, the look, pan, zoom, window, display settings, so you can change all these things. And there's also a lot of key bindings, so if you want to use your keyboard when you're designing, or your mouse, you can use it. And you can change, if you're maybe more familiar with like SolidWorks or any other tool, in your preferences you can change the settings to be the same as the SolidWorks settings or some other design software. In the top right corner you can also see different layouts. So if you want to view your object in a tool, or you want to just put it back to home because you zoomed out and it got all funky, you can press home and it'll take you back to this angle, like little. So you can show these different So I wanted to get started creating this little box, and I could step you through it. So you can like add little textures to it, and that you can also download as well. So you want to start by creating Sketch, and you want to choose a plane to work with. So I want to choose this plane, I think the X plane, Y plane, and I'm going to select that. And so we want to create this box, and so we have to first start with. What I'm first going to start with is this bottom piece. So in my drawing, my best tool is my rectangle tool. This tool is amazing. So you can choose the length and width of it. So say I want it to be 1.5 inches by, let's do 3. So you can press tab to go between them. And you can change it later if you change your mind. Say, oh, I don't want this to be 3 foot or 3 inches. I want it to be 4 inches. But now it's dimension driven because I already have a dimension right here. So I want it to be 4 inches instead. Looks a little bad. So you can change your length like that. So our next step is to extrude. We want to extrude our box to go up a little bit, and then because it's not just a flat surface, it needs to have a little bit of a thickness. So I'm going to extrude this to 0.05 inches. And then, so from this, I want the box to kind of have like a frame shape on the outside. So I want to use like an offset tool, or I can even use a rectangle tool to create this offset. So
Serena, can you touch on some tool tips again for the people, let's say they don't necessarily know which tool that they should use now,
yeah,
or they don't know what those tools are? Can you just show them it?
yeah, for sure. So then I'm gonna go back into my sketch and we can use those tools. So you want to click the face that you want to work on. So I don't know if you noticed, but when I said I wanted to work on this face, I selected this face and I clicked create sketch. So, and then it brings you back to that face, and it's so the 2-point rectangle tool. So you could choose like 2 different points on your rectangle. There's different types. So you have the center rectangle, which rectangle from the middle of the object where this created from the outside. You have your line tool, circle. So you could do different types of circles. So like you have maybe a circle that needs to go between these 3 different points. There's also an arc tool, so if you want to do your 3-point arc. Fancy. So there's different tools that you can work with to kind of create what you create. I was talking about the offset tool earlier. This one right here. And so if you select the edge that you want to offset, you can make it go in or out. Say you want it to be a frame, outwards. But so I want to make it go in negative 0.05. So if you put the negative, that says that I want it to be within this box. But if you were to go out, it would be a positive number. So I want it to be negative 0.05. That's what my thickness is going to be. So now I have this little box, little offset box around, and you can see different settings that you sketch palette. Right, so I'm finished with the sketch. I click sketch, and then I want to extrude. You can select. So I could extrude this, but this is not what I want to extrude. So you have to make sure that you extrude kind of the right piece of your drawing. So you have to see what's selected. You want to click this one, then we can pull it up, or we can give it an actual value. I'm gonna make it 1 inch. there's our box, and it's like offset thickness. But what's a box without little handles? So we gotta put little handles on the side. So, if you see, I have little handles here. So I'm gonna create it on this face. So I'm gonna select this face, click create sketch. And so you might be wondering, like, oh, how do you create kind of like that ellipse shape on the? So you can use different tools together. Like you could use your rectangle tool, and then build off of it with your arc tool to create that. So I'm gonna use center rectangle, and if you hover over a line, it'll give you the midpoint. That little triangle is what. So I'm going. It'll like click to it. I'm gonna click it, and I'm just gonna click a random place here. Maybe 0.125 by 7. So we have a little box, and it's dimensioned. I would always recommend dragging your dimensions. Kind of keeps your space clean. And then I want to use maybe the arc tool to make it have a little curve. So if you click one corner of it, like another corner, like a line here, so you have to kind of trim that later. So you could like create like if you want it to be different diameter, you can change that. That's kind of the arc that you're it's. So you see how our drawing, our little sketch is blue? That means we can't actually extrude it because it's not fully dimensioned. So we have to fully dimension it, but first you want to delete these like these lines in here that are really useful to us. So you can take the trim tool and remove them. Oh, there we go. So we want to trim this one, and so now we're getting a warning. It's like, oh, we're not constrained anymore. You have to dimension. So we're dimensioned. We have the length of this one, but we want to have the thickness. So you want to have the thickness. See how it turned black? Saying that it's dimensioned. That is mentioned. And then I think we have to grab the center of it. Center of our arc. Click it. So you have to dimension both of the rectangles because this one is. Realize it's a copy. So now we have this dimensioned, and our little handle is black. We can finish our sketch and we can extrude it. So we can extrude it. We select, the sketch that we want to extrude. We can pull it out. We can pull it in and make it cut a hole instead. So you can, but we want it to cut out. So here you can see the extrude settings. There's many different things that we'll go probably into. But there's different settings that you can work with here. So like if you want to start at a certain plane or make the extrude go to a certain, you can do that. So I want to just extrude it and cut it out. So I want it to cut through the box. So it's like it's 3 inches, so you can make it go and enter, and there's our box. If you wanted to add like a different texture or an appearance to it, you can do that. So say maybe I want to be made of fabric. Be made of mahogany wood. You can just drag and drop. Change it. But there we go. And you can download different textures. Represent your drawing better. Yeah, there's our box, and we can go into a render. We can animate it if we want to put maybe something else, but you can't just animate a plain box. But we can render this, and you know, and I think if you have the student license, your render should be, I think, I don't remember.
Yeah, so if you have a student license, you'll have free access, essentially unlimited credits. So inside of Fusion 360, we kind of have a credit system. Essentially, 1 credit is $1. So you can see this current render that Stranger would want to do would cost you $1. When you are a student, if you've downloaded your student license correctly, this is completely free to you, as well as using generative design, which is another really, really cool feature. That gets a little bit more expensive. It's about $25 every time you want to run a study and $100 every time you find a design you like. But as you're a student, that's completely free to use. So we definitely almost encourage you to kind of take advantage of that and use up all of your cloud credits before you're out of school.
Yeah, there's a lot of different settings that you have here as well too. If you want to make it for a web, like a website, or mobile. But yeah, basic on Fusion. I don't know. Is there anything else you want me to go over, Jake, that I missed?
No, I think we're pretty good. So today's workshop again, right? This is just meant to kind of get you, get your eyes on the software, see somebody kind of make something and maybe the process that they would go through. Of course, again, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but remember, just because you saw Serena design this box one way, I mean, I can think of probably 5 different ways to design this box off the top of my head. So CAD and Fusion 360 in specific, it's a really, really great opportunity for you to just work and figure out what makes sense. There's a lot of times in CAD where I might see somebody do something that just doesn't make sense to me, and I kind of have to do it a bit of a different way. So um, you've gotten a little bit of an intro. You kind of know how to organize your files now. Some of the workspaces, again, those tool tips. If I recommend every new Fusion 360 user just kind of hovers over all of these icons on your toolbar and just read about what they do. Read Yeah, so we're doing it there, right? So if you hover over, it's going to give you a short description as well as a visual aid. Um, and that I just kind of put those like into my mental kind of toolbox so that I know down the line when I want to model something, I now know what they can do. So there's a really good example of it right there, right? So if I'm new to Fusion, I have no idea what a thread is or how I can make it. I can just go down to thread, hover over it. I can read through that really quick, and then it'll show me what it's going to do. So our next workshop next week, we're going to have a follow along bracket demo. So we're going to make a few different parts. We're going to assemble them together in one assembly. And at the end of the workshop, all of you who do decide to come live, or if you're going to watch this later on YouTube, you can follow along with us. And at the end, you will have a pretty cool part. And you'll also learn pretty much every basic skill that you'll need to do this project. Of course, everybody's project is going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, we're going to show you every skill, every foundational skill, as well as some more learning resources. Randy, do you want to touch really quickly on where they can kind of go to learn outside of our Discord server?
Yeah, we have a channel that has resources, so we post a lot of resources in that channel. But there's also an Autodesk, I think, learning.
You can also, so from inside of your Fusion 360 browser, if you like forget the link or whatever,
Yeah, it's
yeah, so there's a little help icon in kind of the top right hand corner.
there we go. Show the
And then
learning
under
panel.
learning and documentation, the learning and documentation, and then self-paced learning. And then that's going to go ahead and open up our browser. And so check this out. So this is a really, really cool resource if you're new to Fusion 360 or you want to learn like a specific skill, like, you know, we kind of touched on the mesh workspace earlier, or if, you know, you wanted to learn how to do forms, or we have a couple really good product design lessons on these that I would definitely recommend you guys check out. This is all self-paced learning. It's free for you to use. And you know, you can do this on your own time and just go through the lessons that you think will really benefit you. So this is definitely one of the best resources that you can use. We also are kind of in the midst right now of launching our own YouTube page, but there is already a Fusion 360 YouTube page, as well as a number of different YouTubers who cover pretty much every single, you know, piece of Fusion 360 there is out there. So if you ever want to learn something new in Fusion 360, just give it a search on the internet. Chances are there's going to be hundreds of resources for you to pick through.
True. Yeah, my last thing that I want to say is that you can, um, I haven't saved my box yet. That's really important. So, you can save different versions of your sketches as well. So say this is box version, version 2. I think it'll put a version. So box with holes. Um, handles. And so you can show that. You can check it out in the project. You can see the different versions. So I put box with holes, and that was my description. It says version 2. You can have different versions of your designs. You can access them. Yeah, that's basically Fusion for everybody. If you have any questions, please ask now.
Scott, any questions? All right.
Thank you guys
Yeah,
for
so
sticking around.
thank you. Thank you to everybody, again, from both of us for coming. I will go ahead, and we posted another sketching resource today. So just keeping you guys up to date, right? So this week we want to be done with our sketching and have a few good sketches next week that we can start to model in 3D and kind of explore some different forms. So have that ready to go next week. Again, our intermediate Fusion 360 workshop is going to get you into modeling. At the end, you will have a really cool part. So be ready for that. And thank you very much.